You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 10 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I am Jonathan Giles. I am sick, but I am still here. This pollen is just brutal. It's they're already, it's not even May yet, and they're already putting the pollen death warnings on the weather report. You know, you turn your TV on in the morning and you get the little ring, little red line going across the bottom of the screen. Warning, pollen. Look outside. It's like end of days, just yellow everywhere. So that's how I'm feeling, and I'm feeling it too. On a little bit of NyQuil, on a little bit of Claritin, so maybe a little bit loopy, but we're going to get through this. Jessica Salagi's here with me, so she doesn't have the big blue cup tonight. She has the big white cup. So what's in the white cup?
Tea.
It's always tea.
And It has a quote on it. It says, "Plant kindness and gather love."
Plant kindness and gather love.
I can assure you that is not the slogan for All on Georgia.
What kind of hippie tea are you drinking over there?
It's probably, I don't know. If our lawmakers saw it, they might not think it's legal.
It must be hemp tea.
And we have Matt Lowe here with us. Matt's had an interesting couple of days. He's been recording and live streaming the debates that the Paulding GOP has been running. How's that been going, Matt?
Were there a lot of people?
Define a lot. I will say that I think that the school board winner, or the school board debate winner, is Jason Anabatarte. Like, some of his answers, I would say, weren't as polished as the others, but they were good answers, and they were very genuine answers. And I think that if he's not genuine, he's really good at faking it. And that showed. And, you know, of course, then the other lady there, who I haven't seen anything from her. In fact, she got up there, and I'm like, I wonder who that is. She point blank said in her very first answer, "There's no difference in me and my opponent." And I'm like, well, that was a dumb thing to say.
That's good politics.
Right? And then, and on the post 4 commissioners, there was, in attendance was Tony Crow and Dan Bowles and Jim Ashworth. Jim Ashworth, I believe, is probably a really intelligent guy. Like, one of those people, like, so much so that it's like intimidatingly intelligent, you know? But it's also like, listening to him talk is like listening to a freaking engineer, you know, tell you about the load calcs they did for some roof truss. It was just pain. It was like my ears were bleeding. Tony, debates are not his thing, and you could tell. Like, he was uncomfortable with the whole thing. I don't think it hurt him. You know, I think it was one of those things where people, I don't know that he's not going to pick up any votes, but he's not going to lose any, you know. But I think that Dan Bowles probably won that, and it was, I don't want to say it was surprising, but he came very prepared. His answers were very good. They were clear, they were concise, and they were educated. So it was interesting. And you know, someone, you know, specifically designed one of the audience questions for him, which is how much of your money, you know, groceries and food, clothing, that kind of stuff, stays in the county. And they designed that because, to explain it to you, Jessica, he lives up on Cedar Crest And it is faster for him to come out of his neighborhood and turn left and go to a Publix to grocery shop. It's like 2 minutes from his house. Than it is for him to go right and go to, and that Publix is in Cobb County, by the way. Then and it's faster than it would be for him to go right and go to the Publix that's in Paulding County at the front of Seven Hills subdivision. But so like someone was trying to trip him up with that question, and he's like, "Well, actually, my wife is a pharmacist at Kroger, so we drive to the Kroger at Crossroads and shop there." Right? It must be 100 degrees where you're at, Jessica.
Because I have on a tank top.
Because you got on a tank top. Like I come in, my house was 70 degrees. I was like, good God, this is freaking hot. 68 now with the air conditioner. It's amazing.
Well, the heat is still on, but it's not running. But
what?
I went to the gym and I so I'm still, hot from being all worked out and stuff, whatever you call it.
So here we are podcasting with a sweaty Jessica Salaji.
I am not sweaty.
She doesn't sweat. She
glistening.
Glistening. I sparkle.
Sparkle.
You're a vampire. Is that what you're saying?
Speaking of vampires and other creatures of the night, looks like the UK is struggling to combat gun crime, which is odd to me, as I thought guns were illegal there. But apparently, it's gun and knife crime in London is now topping New York City's gun and knife crime.
That's what I read.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. Let's see. On Monday night, 17-year-old Tanisha Melbourne was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. According to acquaintances of the murdered teenager, the young woman was, quote, just chilling with her friends at the time of the incident and was shot for no reason at all. Half an hour later, a few miles across town, two masked men exited a vehicle and shot 16-year-old Aman Shakur as he was outside with his friends at a community recreation center. We're not talking about Chicago here. We're talking about London, England. So, gun control is apparently working well there.
Right.
So,
I just love the quote. It's not nice. So many drugs, stabbings, no respect for people anymore. I mean, that's pretty much everywhere you go, but
I blame the drugs.
that's okay.
The quote here that I find most interesting is from a spokesman for the Home Office. I'm not real sure what that is. It's in the UK, but he says the UK has some of the toughest gun laws in the world, and we're determined to keep it that way. And
what we're doing is failing.
Clearly,
we're
it's
gonna
working.
press on.
Right.
Our strategy is failing. We're going to make it up in volume.
I did, just so everyone knows, the article that we're referencing right now is from the Institute for Legislative Action, the branch of the NRA. Did everyone see that the NRA just endorsed Casey Cagle?
Well, he helped those 13 people who were being picked on by Delta.
All 13.
All 13. So, I mean, of course the NRA had to, come back. Well, I mean, and they certainly couldn't endorse Hunter Hill, right, Matt?
Well, he's a little wishy-washy.
A little bit, you think?
Yeah, but what I find funniest about him, man, is that video that he's got right now where he's at the range, and he's talking about your Second Amendment rights, and he's loading the magazines, right? And then he grabs that 1911, and he's holding it, and I realize why they did it. But he turns it sideways, right? And it's pointing into the lane next to him. Like if there was a person in the shooting booth next to him, he would have just, lasered him with a hot weapon because he drops the mag out of it, and there it is, loaded. And I'm like, dang, Ranger, maybe you should keep that hot weapon pointed downrange. It kind of struck me as funny.
Did you see the Michael Williams ad that says he swings both ways?
I saw
I did.
someone post it, but I was at the debates when it went, so I couldn't play it. So I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I'm no Michael Williams fan, but it's
yeah, we will. We'll get that up on our social media this week. But yeah, it's like you said, it's certainly not a podcast endorsement of Michael Williams, but yeah, as political ads go, that one is quite hilarious. That's just an absolutely amazing ad. It's just brilliant.
Well, before we move on, since we talked about Casey getting the endorsement of the NRA, and I think this is relevant to the legitimacy of the NRA or lack thereof, just listen to this quote from Casey Cagle. I'm honored and excited to have the NRA's support because its cause is one that I share and that I have fought for. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA and I'm proud of my unwavering record for the Second Amendment. Like the NRA, I believe the framers of the Constitution meant what they said when they wrote that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Gun ownership is a right that Georgians take seriously, and the NRA endorsement is a gold standard in our state. I'm an avid outdoorsman, and I taught all 3 of my boys how to hunt, shoot, and respect firearms. He says that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, but this joker voted and pushed for training requirements for gun owners over and over and over. And he killed gun bills in like 2 years in a row, single-handedly in the Senate.
Well, and I know that you're not a huge hunter, but he also put out an ad that I shared it on my social media where he appears to be bird hunting with a .35 caliber Marlin with a scope on it, and that's it's confusing to me, to say the least. I don't know what he's doing, but it's like upland bird hunting, and he's all decked out to be, hunting geese or something, but he's out there with a .35 Marlin, and it's brilliant.
You know what I find funniest about politicians in general? Catering to the hunting crowd. Is we're like 10% of the population. That's it. There's a lot more gun owners than there are hunters. But for whatever reason, hunters, like our PR, has been really good. Sorry about that. And so, like, our image is good. And politicians, man, they want to be seen with us. But I don't understand why.
Well, I mean, it's a cool look. I mean, you get out there and it makes you look all manly and outdoorsy looking, and you're out there in your camo, and you're not actually. Most of these people wouldn't have any idea what to do if they actually shot a deer, but they're out there and they're doing their thing, and it's just it's good stuff. We had a local elected official here that posted a similar photo with a chainsaw. We might post that on our social media as well this week.
That's the cleanest chainsaw I've ever seen.
Well, the whole outfit was incredibly clean. The gloves, the vest, the chaps was all, you could tell that this was all brand new out of the box gear. We're gonna cut down some trees out here. Speaking of getting back to nature, okay.
I'm so excited about this story.
Yeah, if you recall, you'll have to go back into the archives to find it, but we covered a goat who was forced to take cocaine and drink whiskey at a ranch in Gwinnett, no less. And we have an update on that story, and here with that update is Jessica Solange.
Oh my gosh. I need a moment to gather myself. Okay, so
holy crap, they named the goat whiskey.
What did you say?
They named the goat whiskey.
Yes, they named him Whiskey. They said that he still has, they don't know his age
awesome.
or where he actually came from. But the Snap to It Pet Rescue in Atlanta heard about Whiskey's abuse and decided to contact animal control and said that she would take the goat, and she went and picked him up and took her to her farm, and they named him Whiskey. And there's a video, we'll post this on social media too, of Whiskey with his new brothers and sisters. But he's gained some weight. He loves to eat fruits, vegetables, salad, apples, and grapes. And he's eating, his brothers and sisters are Bonnie and Clyde, which is even better.
That's awesome.
They've got,
Well, it's not surprising he's gaining weight. When you quit cocaine, usually gaining weight is one of the first things that you're going to do.
Man, I think I want to meet this lady. Man, she, in the telephone interview, she said, cocaine and whiskey is a first. Most people want to say that for themselves.
I think that was our commentary on the issue,
Pretty much.
yes. Aside from wondering where there was room for a ranch in Gwinnett, I have to ask the same question.
Well, I'm sure it's right off Jimmy Carter,
Yeah. You can see it from the highway. She said that he's loving, which makes me so happy, though, because, a lot of times when animals are mistreated, then they're like people and they have a bad attitude. But Whiskey is a love bug, as she said. So good news.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm always happy to hear that a goat has found a good home. So speaking of finding homes, I sent an email request over to the Douglas Democrats. I cover Douglas County. For everybody that doesn't know, I cover Douglas and Carroll County. Well, I saw a notification, got a press release or something. I can't remember whether I saw it via Facebook or just got an email. But in any event, I sent a message over to the Douglas Democrats asking if I could come over and live stream what they advertised as their candidate forum. Basically, they were going to have all their candidates speak and introduce themselves. It was a candidate meet and greet. So I thought, hey, this would be a great thing to put on All on Georgia. A lot of people call us a right-wing news organization, but, we're certainly not. We cover, pretty much any elected official that, is, whatever, if an elected official is doing something, we cover it, and, we interview pretty much all candidates from all parties that want to be interviewed and will participate. So I thought, hey, I can go over here and meet some of the Democrat candidates and put their message out on All on Georgia's Facebook stream and all that. Well, I get a message back, just very stern and straightforward. No, Jonathan Giles, you may not come and live stream the debates on April the 14th at St. Julian's Episcopal Church. I was like, wow, there's some bitterness here.
Yeah, I saw that, man. That's something about reading all that. It felt, that felt real personal.
It was. Apparently something that I have written in the past reached out and touched somebody. I mean, they were.
Well, I think, you added emphasis in your tone, but I think it's worth noting that they capitalized certain words and emphasized words to make a point. Like, this wasn't just like, no, you may not. This was, caps, and they were trying to send a message.
Yeah, it was. And, I think that what it all may have been about was, before we started the podcast, I was out at a local town hall meeting one night, and a local activist who was concerned about the bus issue in Douglas County was actually tossed out of the meeting by the commission chair. And so I posted the video, I wrote the article, and both the article and the video went viral. And, statewide, I've even seen it in other states. And, it was, I'm thinking that may have something to do with it. There may be a little bit of a personal vendetta about that, but, if you live in Douglas County and you're wondering why All on Georgia isn't covering the Democrat forum, that'd be why. They won't let me. So there you go. So y'all been watching the Facebook hearings this week?
Nope.
I haven't been watching them, but I've been watching clips and reading about it, and it's freaking hysterical.
I like the videos that like people are putting together.
Yeah, it's utterly incredible. I think one of the best was when Hatch asked, well, if Facebook doesn't charge users, how does it make money?
Right. We sell ads.
Yeah, that was...
Actually, he didn't say, he said, Senator, we sell ads. Have you seen that whole little video montage that CNET did?
Yes, that's...
that started with that? Oh, my God.
That is probably... the two that are the best that I've seen is... One of them is like a Thug Life compilation, and the other is that CNET video. The Thug Life one is... he's asked, and I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly who the senator was that was questioning him. But Mark Zuckerberg was asked, do you feel that you are more qualified than the federal government to hold all of this information? To which Zuckerberg just replied, yes. And which I thought was just hilarious.
Right.
Well, what's wild is that, I mean, we have a lot of older members in Congress, but this wasn't an emergency hearing. Like, they took time to prep for this and plan for this. And some of these questions that they asked over the 10 hours on Tuesday and Wednesday, like, it's just asinine. I mean, this is the best you could come up with.
One of the other ones that was really good was just a complete lack of understanding of how cookies work on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I had to cough there. I'm not going to get into a whole technical deal. But, basically cookies, I think most people understand how cookies work on their computer. And I was just mind blown at the, can we track information? And how does Facebook know? And it was just like, wow.
If someone calls you up and says, I want to see John Kennedy's information, can they do that? He's like, no.
Well, and, it gets back to the premise of what he kept saying over and over is that, people opt in. People choose to use Facebook. Like, this isn't like a right to privacy. First of all, there are no rights to privacy. Like, that's a long-held misconception. But, it's a private entity that you're choosing to utilize, and most people are addicted to. Like, people are upset, but is this something that's going to stop them from using Facebook? I don't really think so.
Right. And, one of the things that I always crack up about is I got into this is a side tangent, but I got into an argument with a guy a day or two ago regarding the First Amendment and his contention that the First Amendment protected him from, people basically complaining about things that he said on Facebook, which I thought was asinine. I'm like, no, first of all, the First Amendment protects you from the government. It doesn't protect you from, other people that kind of think you're an ass. That's number one. And number two, it protects you from arrest. And that's all it protects you from. And then, thirdly, this is Mark Zuckerberg's world. It just is, we can do what we want, but, in the end of the day, it's Mark Zuckerberg's world. And, he can shut down whatever he wants. So
that kind of leads me to my own tangent, because I got an email with another one. I'm on the ACLU email list, and they are constantly sending letters and borderline embarrassing elected officials for censoring their official Facebook pages. Most recently was Senator John Alberts of Roswell in Georgia. And so how do y'all feel about that? How do you feel about like banning people? I mean, you guys are banned from some pages. I think Matt, your own state rep, has blocked you. But
Yep.
in terms of their, not their personal page, but their official page, or like, how do you feel about them keeping people from commenting or sharing information?
I think, well, there's a ruling on this out of, I thought I saw one last year out of Virginia, maybe one of the appeals courts there. I think if it's an official page, or if it's their personal page and they use it to conduct official business, even if it just means interacting with constituents, getting a feel for how someone thinks on a particular issue or whatever, then I think to block them should be a First Amendment violation.
And a lot of them, yeah, there are some that they're just the pages of elected officials, but a lot of them, where this started, because see, full disclosure, I was involved in this from the beginning, because there were several organizations that was kind of doing it at the same time. To explain it more deeply, what happened is that Peachtree Normal has a very large group following. And what they would do is whenever they would find official law enforcement pages that were bragging about marijuana possession arrests, they would share those onto the Peachtree Normal page, and the Peachtree Normal followers would go over there and just have a party in the thread, just, trashing the sheriff, making fun of them for making marijuana arrests, the whole nine. And that was basically what it was they started deleting the posts. So, and they would, so what ended up happening was that the sheriff of Habersham County, Sheriff Joey Terrell, who, if you've heard that name before but can't quite figure out where you heard it, Sheriff Joey Terrell and his guys are the ones who blew up Baby Boo Boo. So there's that. But in any event, Joey Terrell was one of the first, and he posted a really hilarious sob story about how he couldn't have a personal voice anymore. But what it was when you went to the page, it said this is the official Facebook page of the Habersham County Sheriff's Department. And, that's kind of where it's a difficult thing for me, because I feel like that if you're an elected official, then, if you're an elected official and you're on your social media and somebody's trashing you, I mean, it's at that point, that's a little bit grayer of a line. I still side with the fact that, yes, they should be forced to keep that up, and that is a First Amendment issue, but it is a grayer line. But when you are running a page that you claim is a representative page of a government agency, then yeah, you have absolutely no right to be deleting things off of that page just because you don't agree with them or they don't agree with your narrative.
Right. Now, I can agree. I would agree with, like a standard of conduct. Basically, if you get on here dropping F-bombs and whatnot, then we're going to delete those comments. But just outright banning people because, they say something that you don't agree with, then,
yeah,
I'm not really a fan.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not a fan of that, and in the way that I think all three of us, personally conduct both our business and our personal social media. But it's but when you're dealing with a government agency, then yeah, I think that's a completely different deal. And at that point, yeah, I mean, you got to you got to be straight up with them like that. But yeah, they, I know that I've seen a lot on the social media pages, and just on the social media pages of elected officials, and just to kind of bring everybody up to speed. The way that this basically works is like this. The basic nuts and bolts of the court rulings that are out there have all pretty much been standard, that as long as an elected official has a place where you can go and get information, then that is fine. Like, for example, both Matt and I are blocked by his elected House rep.
Paulette Rakestraw.
Paulette Rakestraw. We're both blocked by her. However, both of us can access her state rep page. But we were both friends with her on her personal page, and she's blocked us both. She won't block Jessica because she can't not see what Jessica's doing. It drives her too crazy.
Actually, she unfriended me after the Chris Severe stuff. And I don't play that game because most of my articles and anything work related I make public. So if you're not friends with me, you can see it. But anyway, she unfriended me, so I blocked her.
So you did the blocking there.
I did. I'm not interested in even ever encountering her super short skirts or her hooker boots.
Good Lord. She was at the thing tonight, at the debate tonight, with a skirt that was entirely way too short. I have I don't want to say a good picture of it because it's not good, but it's a picture of it anyway. I'm probably gonna post it.
Yeah, you can look for that on our official Facebook page too.
I don't.
The person
I don't
with the
know
best.
about it.
The person with the best GIF about it wins.
Wins what?
Caption this photo.
Do they win a sign? A yard sign? A particular yard sign?
Yard sign. A signed yard sign by the three of us. Just kidding. That sign is mine.
It's in my car hole at present.
Car hole.
I don't say garage like some kind of Yankee. What word was it that I say like a Yankee? That's right. There is no word that I say like a Yankee.
Why?
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 Yeah.
Yep. I don't have a garage. We don't have garages down here very often.
Man, have you ever spent a fair amount of time with people not from here?
From where?
The United States.
Yes.
Have they ever commented on garages before to you?
No.
I've had them say something about, this is amazing. You have houses for your car or cars, and they're bigger than the houses for families where I'm from. A Russian lady was talking about it one time. I don't know. It's an interesting perspective because she wasn't, at the time, she wasn't a poor woman in Russia. She was fairly well-to-do. And Jessica's throwing things. But yeah, no, I just thought it was interesting that she called them houses for our cars. I guess we can go ahead and say that the opinions expressed on this show are our own and not necessarily the opinions of All on Georgia. Got that in before Jonathan dies.
It doesn't matter. I'm on a different channel anyway.
Has anyone ever died on a podcast before?
I don't know. I haven't researched it.
How would they know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I guess, if one of you two died, then I could still get it out. But,
right.
If I died, then...
I would hope it would be timely.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We're going to broadcast Matt Lowe's coronary.
So recently, the Trump administration has been caught due to some open records requests and some emails that were found with Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue, former Georgia governor as well. If you haven't lived in that state, if you haven't lived in this state for very long, but in any event, the Trump administration is considering a plan that would allow states to require certain food stamp recipients to undergo drug testing. And they're claiming that this is handing a win to conservatives who have long sought ways to curb the safety net program. So, drug testing welfare recipients. What say you?
Who's going to pay for it?
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what I feel. And you know, this is something. It's one of those things that I guess on a first blush glance, it looks pretty good. You got to take a drug test for my job down at the factory. Well, why don't these people have to take drug tests? I mean, I get that. I get that mentality. But the reality of it is that, this has been tried in multiple states. I can't recall all of them off the top of my head. I know that Florida
Georgia?
is one of them. Well, no, Georgia's was never actually implemented, was it?
No, because Deal wouldn't sign it because they were challenging it in Florida.
Right. I know that. I know that was one of the laws that our dear friend, House District 19 Representative Paulette Rakestraw was strongly behind. But yeah, I know that in Florida, it was a ridiculously low number of people that they actually caught.
I think it was less than 5%.
I think it was less than 1.
I think it was. I thought it was 3.
Okay.
But politically, as a conservative and as a limited government person, if you take out the who's going to pay for it aspect, it would be a hard no vote to cast to say I'm not going to require these people to not be under the influence of something. I mean,
you know what I'd rather do? Spend the time, money, resources, whatever, to fix that program. Like we all know that philosophically I'm an anarchist, but the realistic thing is that's never going to happen. So try to curb it where you can, and I think put people on a dang time limit with that.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Put people on a time limit. You get. I get the safety net aspect of it, and if I was to walk in tomorrow and lose my job, I'd be okay. But that's because I hunt a lot. And I've got a freezer full of food, so I'm not going to have any starving kids. But make a time limit. No more. You don't get public assistance as a way of life.
What would you set the time limit at?
6 months. Like if you can't find a way to feed your family in 6 months, then
So I don't know all the specifics of it, but I frequent the gas station chain down here known by the name of Parker's. And Parker's and all the other ones down here have different, it's a growing trend to have food on the spot and food you can order to go and things like that. And I guess there's been a huge thing with EBT in Georgia in how you can spend it on whether or not the food can be eaten on site versus taking it to go. You can get a piece of pizza and you can leave with it, but you can't eat it at the table in the gas station. So I think that's another aspect of it is the rules aren't enforced. They're hard to understand of what you can and cannot buy. People break the rules all the time. I mean, I'm not really sure that the drug aspect is the biggest problem.
And yeah, that's the thing. It's been several years, but several years back, I had a part-time security job at a Publix, and so I got to I became kind of familiar with the EBT regulations, and that was one of them. I want to say is like I think you can't buy hot food. I may be mistaken, but I believe that the rule is you can buy cold food, but you can't buy hot food. So it was really odd because Publix would have rotisserie chickens, identical rotisserie chickens, but they would have some that were cold that were EBT approved because they'd been sitting there for a while. Then they'd have others that were fresh out of the oven and they were hot, and you had to pay for the rotisserie chickens that were hot, but you could buy the cold ones on an EBT card.
See, like that kind of stuff doesn't make sense. I don't care whether or not someone buys something hot or cold.
Well, the whole deal, the mentality behind it, I can tell you what the government mentality behind it is that there's a concern that if you open this up to hot food, then the next thing you know, McDonald's is going to be, putting in an application to be able to accept EBT. And, this is a difficult problem. I freely admit that this is not, the problem with this is actually like a lot of debates in government. This is a very complex problem with the overall issue of feeding the poor, food stamps, all that. It's a very complex problem. And when you try to, bring it down to a 10-second talking point, this program will be fixed if we got the drug addicts off. When you try to do that, you're pretty much always going to fail.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, anytime that you take a complex issue, a multifaceted issue, and try to fix it
Because, look, I'll tell you something surprising, because I actually looked very deeply into food stamps. And one of the stats that amazed me is the number of U.S. military members that we have that are on food stamps. I'm
and police officers.
And I am not. I'm not talking about disabled vets. I'm talking about active service U.S. military that are on food stamps, and like Jessica said, and police officers. So we're talking about a very wide range of people, and that's the other side of where this issue has come up, is that people, when you think of food stamps, there's a very distinct stereotype that a lot of people think of, and it's not true, and that's where the other side of this issue comes up. And on that stereotype, something that I've always thought is, I see on Facebook threads and on social media a lot, and even in written opinion pieces, people talking about, I saw somebody, buy, $250 worth of lottery tickets with cash, and then they bought some food with an EBT card, or that they bought this with an EBT card, and they had a brand new iPhone, or there's 1,000 variations of this story.
Got in an Escalade.
Yeah, they got in an Escalade. That's one of the other ones. But my thought on that is, who are these creeps that are like, looking over their shoulder to see what kind of card you're paying with? I mean, because the thing looks like a credit card. It's not.
Here's the thing about that, though, is some of those people may not be technically food stamp recipients. If you're a foster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which would absolutely explain the Escalade scenario, or iPhone, or whatever. I would hope that people that are fostering children are not spending $250 on lottery tickets, because.
Well, I mean, I agree with all those points, but there absolutely is abuse of it. I mean, there are people who are choosing. It's cheaper, or it's more beneficial for them not to work than it is to go get a job because it's so cushy. I mean, go stand in in a Walmart the day they start sending tax returns.
Right.
People who are on the earned income tax credit walking away with $5,000-$10,000 and they haven't worked a day all year.
Right.
I mean, it's the same type of thing. Like, it's why we shouldn't have any type of social program in the first place. And I know that that's way too ideological, but it's why it will never garner support, because whenever the government has a program like that, it's going to be abused, no matter who's using it.
I think that's... Man, I don't know, like the thought... I mean, I joke with my wife all the time that we should separate, and I'll move to my mom's house and make the house Section 8 available, and she can go apply for Section 8 and food stamps, and home heating, or whatever. And because I don't know, a single mom with 7 kids, she'd probably get it all. But obviously, it's a joke. But
Sure.
Yeah.
We know how you feel about public land.
hey. You know what that is? It's logical consistency there. You know what?
It is.
Yes,
not.
it is. You want to know why? And I'll tell you why. Because we touched on it a little bit. Because we tried it the other way and it failed.
Says failed according to who?
Well, I mean, when you hunt everything damn near to extinction, that's a failure. And it was market hunting that did that. You're down there in South Georgia. Talk to some of those old timers, and they'll tell you.
Tell me what to do.
I'm telling you what to do. Talk to them. They'll tell you, like in the 50s and 60s, if you saw a deer track, it was something to talk about. And turkeys have made a humongous recovery.
Good for them.
Yeah.
So that is my logically consistent point.
Well, maybe
Public
I'm
land
for...
and state management of federally owned land and state management of the wildlife works.
Maybe I'm in favor of extinction because I'm just ready for the world to be over.
Oh, that's a
Jessica will be speaking this week at your local Optimist Club. So be sure to get down there and check that out.
Oh, you know what it is? She's fixing to turn 30.
No, I'm not.
she thinks her life's over.
It's April.
Yeah, like what, a month and a half?
April. It's April.
It's April?
Yeah, when's your birthday?
Not April.
When's your birthday?
Not April.
September?
Well, let's see.
Yes.
I have social
Why do I know
media
that?
here. Hold on.
It's September. So in the grand scheme of Jessica's life, 30 some odd years.
No,
Yeah, if you
you're
count-
wrong, Matt. It's July 31st.
Which is basically August. My due date was actually August 7th, so
Oh, okay. So
that's when I turned
well, we're not
30.
going to
Well,
celebrate until August
if you're gonna count the due date, then we get to count the gestation period, and you're already 30.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. For the second time, third time, how many times? What is this?
Mm-mm.
All right. It is time for the loser of the week.
Loser.
It's just not as funny when you do it, Matt.
I know,
Just,
but Jessica didn't do it.
just not as funny.
Do it, Squeaky.
So, who won?
And we have a clear and decisive winner this week. There's absolutely no need for a game of rock, paper, scissors, nuke, or anything else. Ed Setzler, he took it down with 92.9% of the vote.
Damn.
Yeah, he apparently nobody cared about the about Lindsey Tippins but Matt.
I didn't vote for that. I didn't vote in this one.
So congratulations to Ed Setzler. You have won this week's loser of the week. We're gonna make a hashtag out of you.
Thanks to your ridiculous comments about medical cannabis and parents having the rights and access to treat their children, but we appreciate it.
We certainly do. We certainly do. So, who's on the block this week? I'd like to nominate the Douglas Democrats for telling me I can't come to their meeting.
I would like to nominate Bill Workshire, I think is his name. Is that how you pronounce it?
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. All right. On day, I think it was day 39.
Wait, who?
Bill Workshire? Workshire?
Bill Werkheiser?
Werkheiser, that's it. That's like Worcestershire or whatever. I don't know. This little squirmy, wormy looking dude, right? I'm up at the Capitol. My daughter's paging up there. And he was coming back from lunch and runs into me. Like, we come around the corner at the same time, and he runs into me. And not, I'm sorry, nothing, just move out of my way. And this goes on. I'm like, I wanted to trip him. If we had been anywhere else, like, if someone did that to me in the Walmart, I'd have kicked their feet out from under him and watched them squirrel around on the floor. But he's a big fat loser.
Well, if you want to just now nominate him and appoint him, I'm okay with that. But I would really like to nominate the NRA for endorsing Casey Cagle, but I don't want to do anything to take away from Bill's loserness. So this is a really hard decision.
I thought we were going to nominate Glenn Stinson. What happened to that?
I'm waiting to see how that plays out with the
Oh, is there another letter
Attorney
in the
General's
mail?
office. Man, no! That bastard. Look, and this poor woman, whoever this Jennifer lady is in Chris Carr's office, is going to get real tired of it because every single morning I send a copy of an ORR that I sent the city and a copy of their reply. And my email simply says, I promised the city that I would file a complaint every 24 hours that they were in noncompliance. This will serve as my complaint for April 12th. And then I hit send.
Yeah.
And I've done that like 6 days now.
But yeah, that's that's something going on with the email, because I don't know why, but every time Matt sends an email, it pops up in my inbox. So I get one every morning.
There's a setting when I access it online through a PC. There's a setting that it copies itself to mobile, and I don't know why. It's really weird. Like that email does not show up in the inbox online, but yeah, it dings on my phone.
Yeah, that has become my wake up email every morning. Is Matt emailing Chris Carr?
Yeah, about 8:15 or so, 8:20, something like that in the morning.
Yeah.
Fire that dude off. So eventually, Glenn Stinson and Chris Carr will be on my loser list.
Okay, so
again, because we're fixing to hit a solid week of not even a response from his office that says, "Hey, we got your emails."
So let's see. So we have Bill Worcestershire, and we have, what's the other one? What did I say?
You said the Douglas County Democrats.
Thank you. We have Bill Worcestershire and the Douglas County Democrats. So
how is it? How do you say his name? Werkheiser.
Mm-hmm.
Werkheiser. And then Jessica wanted to nominate the NRA for endorsing Casey Cagle. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things, though. Like, do they really have a choice? I mean, it's kind of like if they have to nominate or if they have to endorse somebody.
I would have for sure endorsed Kemp.
Yeah.
He has a legislative record.
Tippins. Yeah.
Well, Tippins they won't endorse because he hasn't
served because he
anything.
hasn't voted, right.
But Kemp has a legislative record as a state senator. I mean, I just don't I don't buy it that was the best choice.
No, it wasn't. No, man. I'm an NRA member, but I absolutely do. It's just like I don't agree with everything they do. I think that the NRA is real fast to sell us out sometimes.
Well, they're clearly they are a Republican organization because look, here is the bottom line. If what you are truly fighting for is gun rights, then with very few exceptions you would be backing the libertarian in every race where there is one.
Sure.
Right. And
absolutely.
They don't. So, it's and it's like, in particular, our good friend James Camp, he's a founding board member of Georgia Carry. And when he ran as a libertarian, then he was not supported by the NRA. Which, I mean, and this is a pro-gun dude. Like, out there pro-gun.
He knows the laws better than... If I have a question about anything, I go to him.
Yeah, he knows more gun law than most lawyers do.
He would be an interesting guy to have on the show sometime.
We can make that happen. Next week on the show, though, we're going to have Amanda Swafford, former Libertarian Senate candidate and current advocate for ballot access reform. She's now an independent and a proud independent. So she'll be on the show next week discussing ballot access law and, how we got here, the problems with ballot access in Georgia, and why we have these issues. And I'll tell you, one of the things, if you're following your local politics, which you should be, because all politics are local, but if you're following your local politics, then what you're going to hear is about your party not having, about people trying to get into the local Republican Party or the Democrat Party who aren't, quote, real Republicans or real Democrats. And, the ballot access is a huge part of that. It truly is. That's how we got here. They can't, you can't legitimately run a race as a libertarian or as an independent. So we're going to go into all of that. We're going to, tell you some horror stories about going around and, getting thousands and thousands of people to sign a petition and all that. And that's just to get on the ballot. And then, so you basically, as Amanda is going to tell us next week, you basically have to run the race twice if you're going to run as an independent or as a libertarian or as anything other than as a Republican or a Democrat. Because you have to run this race one time just to get on the ballot. And then you got to run again to win. So, and all that's got to be done in the same time period. So, because you're basically, working to get all these signatures just to get on the ballot. So, we're going to be talking to her next week. That's going to be very exciting. Does anybody have any closing thoughts?
Concluding thoughts. You know what? I got one. It has nothing to do with state politics, though, and I'm only bringing it up because, we've been talking a little bit about public lands and hunting and conservation. And that is that the state of Wisconsin, because of the conservation efforts of hunters, are having an application period for a lottery for their first elk hunt next year.
Congratulations to the state of Wisconsin.
Right. 20 years is what that took.
Well, I wanted to give a shout out to the city of Atlanta for actually spearheading and leading the way on an initiative amidst all their scandals and bad headlines. They are implementing a program called Open Checkbook, and everyone will be able to track spending, expenditures, contracts with vendors, salaries. It's like opengeorgia.gov on steroids, but the city of Atlanta is doing it, and it's already in place in places like Austin and Washington, D.C. But I just think it's wonderful. I think all of our local governments should have that available online. So I just wanted to give credit where credit is due because I think it's a step in the right direction.
How often does a system like that get updated? Like, obviously, it couldn't be real time, but
I don't know. I was researching the companies today, but it's a little bit difficult because I guess once the company implements it, they name it like what they want. Like New Mexico is their Sunshine Portal, and so it's not just opencheckbook.org that you can go look at, but basically, I think from what I've read, it's like every, 48 to 72 hours. But I think can upload in real time. Like it's basically like a server. So, they put the information on there because it's going to have to do with bidding and contracts and like all that stuff with vendors. So that would have to be that couldn't be annually. So
right. Now I wonder what something like that costs to implement.
But I will say that even if it was annually, as much as I want it as close to real time as possible, like that still leaps and bounds ahead of most of the places that we all work. So
right, where you'd have to ORR it, and then they're not going to answer it.
Exactly. So, Jonathan?
Don't step on down power lines. That's my closing thought. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up. I hope everyone has a great week. We'll be back next week with Amanda Swafford, Open Government, and a whole lot of other new stuff. So, thank y'all for coming.
Later.
Be sure to like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes.